We crazy. Good evening, everyone. Anna's here, and we are on for Money Date. A little bit late because I was traveling yesterday, but I still want to talk to you about an interesting topic. I was just returning from a conference. Why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. If you are a business owner yourself, you probably have stumbled across a book called E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And so I actually had an opportunity to watch him speak live yesterday and was by far blown away by his presentation. Actually, I even found a song. It's called Chained to the Rhythm by Katy Perry. So it kind of relates to the fact that it makes me want to dance. It kind of relates to the fact that if we're business owners, right? We're running our business with this lens on without necessarily thinking what is the purpose of the business. And so I want to share with you a little bit about what takeaways I had. But since this is a money date and we're supposed to be giving ourselves a check-in, and this is kind of a comparison. Michael talks about creating a business in which you don't have to work. And so I see a lot of commonality with that is how you can apply that into your own personal life when it has to do with your finances. That is why I am constantly coming at you and reminding you that you've got to have systems in place to relieve yourself from stress and anxiety, and or even just plainly have an approach to manage your finances. And so money dates are designed for us to check in and give ourselves a reminder, right, point about how far have we gone in terms of our income generating activities, right? And you may be just getting a paycheck every week, and not just, you may be getting a paycheck that doesn't change in dollar amounts, but you also have expenses that you have to stay on the top of, right? Hi, Helena, good to have you here. And then you have savings goals. All of those three things can be automated so that you can give yourself time to focus on other things. Just like comparing it to what Michael Gerber is talking about in terms of running a business, right? In which you are not the actual worker, right? So I'm gonna kind of contrast and compare today, but before we sort of dive into the actual topic, by far I was blown away by his presentation. I actually got to meet him in person and shake his hand. He's a pretty famous guy. And so one of the things that I'd love to cover with you today, and also a reminder, so make sure that you've given yourself time to check on three things that I just discussed. Where are you with your income? How your expenses are so far this week? And then are you tracking with your savings goals? The other piece that I think we're starting to get on more is what have you given yourself time and opportunity to pause and reflect and give this moment of gratitude in terms of what has been awesome in your week, right, over the last 7 days that relates to your money, to your personal finances. It could be your business finances, I don't care. As long as you start to recognize what those achievements have been. Because I believe everything we do is tied into our personal finances, right? Or to money. It's just this world, we live in the material world, and so we have to look at that. So my biggest win, and I call it a money win for this week, is that I just returned from a conference in St. Louis. This was one of my industry conferences I usually attend. XY Planning Network put that event on. But alongside that conference, I organized a women's gathering. So I had almost close to 90 attendees, and I worked really hard alongside with my committee members to put that event together. We had an awesome speaker, Keisha Mabry, who talked to us about how to brag, right? Which is something interesting that a lot of us don't do enough. So my brag for today, it's all kinds of things. It's to brag. It's it's sharing my gratitude feeling. There's a lot. So the brag piece is that I was blown away and surprised by how many people were excited to be there. How many people we had an evening event on Monday evening. We had an awesome food, awesome company. All women came out, or most women came out that were attending the conference, and Keisha was just unbelievable. So I am still running my high here in terms of still getting comments on Facebook, still getting comments in my email and thank yous, and so I am excited to see what this brings more. So this is for a collective community that I've started particularly to help women to get more women in financial planning. And so, hi Mary, good to have you here. So as far as how this keynote has kind of impacted me, I've read Michael Gerber's book years ago, The E-Myth Revisited, but his presentation kind of gave me sort of a different view. I knew about, right, and I knew about the difference, right, about being a technician in the business, and it applies to, I have a lot of clients, right? This is the reason I kind of wanted to talk about this. I have a lot of clients who have their own businesses, right? They work for themselves. But a lot of times that business depends on the skill of that person, right? So I am a good example because I'm a financial planner, right? I have other employees in the business that do the same thing as I do, other financial planners, but that the business depends on the skills, right? On my ability to get in front of clients, to give them advice, to help them make decisions. Now, that's kind of how most small businesses are started, right? They're centered around that one person or two people that have a particular skill that they're working on. So what Michael is talking about, Michael Gerber, is that there is a way, right? If your goal, right? I think it comes down to that. If your goal is to create a real business that does not depend on you, you need to look at it from a different perspective. And so this talk particularly was based on one of his latest books. I'm not sure when it came out. I think just a few years ago. It's called Beyond the E-Myth. And so he has I started reading the book. He has a precise system that talks about how do you actually get yourself, right, into that mindset. This is the key, my friends. How do you get yourself into a mindset of thinking that you're not the business, right? The business evolves around you. And so here are the steps. So we've heard this many times before. You start out, you've got to have a vision, you've got to get your mission down and all of that stuff. But I like what he talks about is that his number one step is called the dream. So what great outcome do you want your business to create? And I like that, right? Because if you can clearly identify what you're thinking, right? What are you dreaming? Like, what is that big thing you want? You start with that. Number two, of course, your vision, but the vision comes down to of what form so you want this particular thing, right? You're dreaming about building a business that's gonna solve this particular problem. The vision is what form is it going to take? Are you going to be working online? Are you going to have brick and mortar? What is the form that your business is going to take place? It is astonishing to me how precisely these steps are thought through. The third step is the purpose. What are the big results, right, that you want your business to produce? And so if you map out those, then the vision comes into play. And the vision is, how do you bring the dream, right? The mission, I'm sorry. Then the fourth step is the mission. How do you bring the dream, the vision, and the purpose together, right? So that it creates a turnkey system. And so just those first four steps out of his 8 steps kind of a process help me sort of say, all right, I've got to go back and look at what my business is all about, right? Because I worked on creating my mission, my vision. We even have it on our website. But I got to go back and maybe start from the beginning and say, all right, what was the big dream, right, of me wanting to be a business owner? And how does that change, right? Or does it change? Do I have that pinpointed right? And I see this, the reason I actually wanted to talk about this topic on the money date particularly, because I see so many clients, right? So many of you who come to us to get their financial plan done, right? And when you start sort of laying everything out and say, all right, well, I have a business. So many of the clients do not have an exit strategy. They have a job, right? They are self-employed, but that thing that they're running and working in isn't going to be ready, right, to produce the big results. And so my goal is to work on helping clients figure that out. So how can that business, right, that you call a business, something that you're running, can be turned into something that runs without you? Maybe it is not your goal, but I think at the end of the day, so many people just have a misconception about what being self-employed, what being a business owner actually is all about. And then a couple more steps. So once you got those sort of big 4 things, right, it's kind of more what comes from the inside of you, as being the entrepreneur who wanted to create, something different, something better. Then you start designing, right, what Michael calls the job, right? And so the job is, how do you do that thing that you want, right? Let's say you wanted to start a financial planning company, or you wanted to start another company that I don't know, sold some kind of widget. So what do you do, right? These exact steps. So he calls it a client fulfillment system, right? So those are the how-tos, so that it goes, this is kind of, I think, the key, where it's not, so if something were to happen to you, it goes beyond that, right? You don't have to worry that the business cannot run without you. And this is, for those of you who are watching and you may be sort of in my shoes in terms of advisor, this is by far one of the biggest complaints, right? Is what will happen to my business, right, if I can't work? I look at it from a perspective, if a client is saying something like that to me, I say, well, it's a great question. What will happen, and how will you pay for your expenses, right? And how you will maintain your lifestyle, because the business is you. It depends on your skill. It depends on your time to deliver that service. So start thinking about what systems, right? How to, exact steps and processes you can put in place so that if you can't be there for some reason, it doesn't stop, right? And so then number 6 is, of course, none of the businesses that exist in today's world, right, ever could actually exist if they didn't have clients. So this is another big component that, again, so many of us are struggling with. How do we get clients, right? So what is that process? How do we generate leads? How do we convert them to prospects? How do we move them through that sales process? It's also a system that can be designed and put in place so that, right, so that again, you're not caught up in doing all of these things. Could it be done by one person, by one individual? Probably not, because at the end of the day, we have so much time, right, that we can devote to all of those activities. And then after a while, you just run out of time. And so, so the Beyond Meat book actually talks about how do you go from being a company of 1 to a company of 1,000, right? So, because I think also what I've really realized from this talk is that you, one person, do not have all the skills to do these things, right? Just because you're self-employed and have a particular technical skill does not mean that you know how to do marketing, that you know how to do sales, and all of those things that go into running a successful business. And of course, the last few steps is when you create what he calls, hi Misty, good to have you here, what he calls a franchise prototype, right? When all of those systems, right, your vision is defined, you have your mission, you know how all of that is put together, when it's replicatable. So when you actually can turn over and say, here's somebody else that can run this for me. And that's when you add a management system, right, to do it on your behalf. And so from there, you can actually start seeing, I'm blown away. This is the shape that it starts to create in my mind. You can actually see that it's this thing that you're working on starts to shape up into something that really can be called a business. So I am excited. So I have his book. I got to meet him in person. I got to shake his hand and have a picture. So stay tuned. I'll share that. But I've really found this very interesting topic and thought I could share this with you. Take a look around. He has lots of different books depending on what profession you are. One of the latest ones that he said he's releasing is the E-Myth for real estate agents. So it really doesn't matter what type of industry you work in. So, and I thought that I close this this evening's chat with a quote. Everybody knows who Walt Disney is, right? Or was. And so he said that all dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them. And so I thought it was really relevant in terms of how with Michael Gerber's 8-step process, right, is that you start with a dream. And so we all have dreams. We just got to get more courage to pursue them. Thanks so much, my friends, for watching. I will see you next week, and make sure that you do finish up your money date steps. Finish up your check-in for the week. See you next week. Thanks so much.